Okay, hello everyone. I'm Carolyn Yee, Senior Comms Manager at the Stellar Development Foundation. And welcome and thank you all for joining us for the Stellar Development Foundation's first quarter in review for 2024. So here is our agenda for today. First, we're going to have CEO and Executive Director Denelle Dixon, who will recap some of our noteworthy highlights from Q1. Justin Rice, our VP of Ecosystem, is here to go over network stats and cover North Star 1, which is about building toward a future-proof and sustainable Stellar. Jason Chlipala, our Chief Business Officer, will review North Star 2, which is all about how we focus on everyday financial services. And then Denelle will come back to take us through North Star 3, how we ensure a trustworthy technology stack that advances adoption. And we will be leaving time at the end for all of your questions. So just a reminder that the earlier you ask, the more likely we'll be able to get to your question. So please make sure you submit them throughout the call using the Q&A menu option in Zoom. So that's the agenda. Denelle, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Q1 review. We kicked off the new year and the first quarter in a big way. Smart contracts went live, which is so awesome. This has been a huge effort with the ecosystem, 2 years in the making. We are so grateful for everyone who has been a part of the Sorbonne journey, and a journey it was. From the SDF team members to the supportive ecosystem of builders, this milestone was made possible with lots of keystrokes, lots of feedback, support, and collaboration. Over 3 rounds this quarter, the Stellar Community Fund awarded $3.2 million worth of lumens to projects building on Sorbonne. Tokenization on the network continues to grow with real-world asset supply at over $533 million. And we announced Meridian 2024 in London, an opportunity for the ecosystem and community to gather in person later this year and celebrate a decade of impact. We'll dig into each of these updates shortly, but first, since it's the first quarterly of the year, here's a quick reminder of our 2024 roadmap and our 3 North Stars. Number 1, open participation, innovation, and governance are necessary for a future-proof and sustainable Stellar. This is about how the involvement of many will help to future-proof the network and to drive it forward. Number 2, SDF prioritizes the focus on everyday financial services in pursuit of our mission. And this North Star is about our expanding functionality and scalability of the network and increasing adoption of priority uses through strategic go-to-market. And finally, our 3rd North Star is about building a trustworthy technology stack that advances adoption for everyday financial services. We do that by setting useful standards, including payment standards, that take root because a diverse set of players adopt them. Together, these North Stars will help us advance towards Stellar SDF's mission of enabling greater access to the financial system by redefining who has access to everyday financial services. So I'll be back in a bit, but for now, over to Justin to walk us through the network stats.
Great. Thank you, Denelle. Hi, everyone. I'm Justin Rice, VP of Ecosystem, here to report on some key network stats. Quick note, if you've joined these calls in the past, you may notice that we've made some updates to this section. So for one thing, we're no longer presenting the data year over year, because given the sort of outsized impact that crypto market cycles can have, we found that that year-over-year perspective wasn't really providing a meaningful point of comparison. So no more year-over-year analysis. There are also a few other changes, but I'll call them out as we go along. So let's get to it. First up, let's look at total accounts on the network. In Q1, total accounts surpassed the 8 million mark, a new milestone, a great start to 2024, 8 million accounts on the network. Now, what can these account holders actually access on the network? The answer is a lot. And one really big one is real-world assets. So this year, we're going to keep an eye on real-world asset supply, which will show us how much the network is being used for real-world use cases. Some examples of assets included in this category are stablecoins like USDC and EURC, the Franklin Templeton Benji asset, and Wisdom Tree funds. In Q1, real-world asset supply hit over $533 million worth, which is an increase of almost 200 million since we last checked in on this number last quarter. Big increase. Next, and also new for 2024, we want to track real-world asset payment volume. So since Stellar was designed to improve the global payments landscape, we want to understand how many real-world assets are actually being used to make payments. In Q1, the real-world asset payment volume was equivalent to $1.6 billion. That's billion with a B. So there's more accounts accessing more real-world assets to make more payments. We are going in the right direction, up and to the right. Very good. That brings us to our next metric, which is total volume. So total volume includes payment volume and DEX, or decentralized exchange volume. DEX volume is all trades that make use of Stellar's built-in order books and Stellar's built-in automated market makers, or AMMs. Q1 payment volume was about $4.8 billion. Q1 DEX volume was over $112 million. So together, that brings the total volume for Q1 to $4.9 billion worth. Next up, total operations. So operations on Stellar are any function that changes the ledger state. So this includes payments and trades on the DEX, as well as things like smart contract invocations. So this is a measure of throughput, how many things are passing through the network, how much is the network being used. There were over 748 million operations on Stellar in Q1, which is also up since Q4. So this is what a growing ecosystem looked like. Quarter over quarter, more people using the network more frequently. There's more value transacted. There's more transaction throughput, just more. Very good. Also new this year, we're going to track fees, specifically daily transactions by total fees charged and average transaction cost. So across all 460 million plus transactions on the Stellar network in Q1, the total fees charged came to just over $30,000 worth. So if we do the math, that means the average transaction cost on Stellar in Q1 was only 0.000065 cents, or in Lumen terms, 5,171 stroops. Now, a lot of networks are more expensive than that, right? But notably, that's even less expensive than Solana, which is another network that touts low fees, right? On Solana, average transaction fees increased 588% from 0.002 cents to 0.01 cents in Q1. Just saying. The last set of metrics measure the decentralization of the network. Now, decentralization is key to the health and longevity of the network, and so we're going to continue to monitor the number of nodes and just the average ledger close time to see how the network is holding up. So first, let's look at the number of Tier 1 validators. These are nodes that are run by organizations that have gained a high level of network trust. They're essential to network health and resilience and governance. At the end of Q1, the network had 23 Tier 1 validator nodes. Outside of the Tier 1 organizations, the total number of network nodes, according to StellarBeat, which is an independent network explorer, was 119. Average ledger close time clocked in at around 5.9 seconds. So all in all, by the end of Q1, all is well. And that is a wrap on network stats. So now let's turn to the first North Star, which points out that open participation, innovation, and governance are necessary to ensure a future-proof and sustainable Stellar. 2 years ago, the ecosystem demanded a new approach to decentralized innovation on Stellar, one that allows developers anywhere and everywhere to design and implement the features necessary to build the next generation of financial products and services. Of course, I'm talking about smart contracts. And the big update here, and it is a really big update, is that smart contracts went live on Stellar. Sorbonne, which once lived off in a different, perhaps lesser galaxy called FutureNet, is now merged with the very much alive Stellar mainnet. And on March 19th, Sorbonne opened for business, which means anyone can write, deploy, invoke smart contracts on Stellar, and they can connect them to the real world. So it was a real journey to get to this point. Together, the community and SDF, as part of the community, iterated over 10 preview releases, committed hundreds of thousands of lines of code to develop novel solutions to some of blockchain's biggest unsolved problems, right? Like state archival to prevent state bloat, and to create a killer developer experience that takes advantage of the precision of Rust and the efficiency of WASM, all in support of developers and projects that are building next-generation everyday financial services on Stellar. SDF also continues to fund developers as they learn, tinker, build, test, launch, and scale through the Sorbonne Adoption Fund, which is a dedicated $100 million envelope within our mandate. So as of the end of Q1, we've deployed approximately 15% of that $100 million to support all kinds of projects necessary for a flourishing Sorbonne smart ecosystem. This quarter alone, the Stellar Community Fund, which is the open application awards program that draws on community input to support developers and startups. SCF completed 3 rounds, received 198 submissions. It awarded $3.2 million worth of lumens to 35 new projects and to 28 existing projects to expand their features. All of that was done with the input, participation, and support of the community. So if you're looking to learn and build, there's funding, there's support, and there's a welcoming community waiting for you. Today, projects that are building on Stellar include industry names like Axelar, Allbridge, and Band Protocol, as well as DeFi newcomers like SourceSwap and Blend, and that's just to name a few. We're seeing the building blocks necessary for a thriving DeFi ecosystem all going live. That includes protocols for decentralized asset exchange, lending and borrowing and governance, things like SourceSwap I just mentioned, but also cables. That includes ecosystem tools like indexers, block explorers, and oracles like Band I just mentioned, but also Mercury. That includes an entire dev stack with things like SDKs, IDEs, and crucially, audit and formal verification tools and resources offered by companies like Certora. There are over 200 projects in total that we know of. They're all in the public project directory, and the ecosystem continues to evolve and grow every day. So every day, more of those projects make it to mainnet. I think we'll see some pretty cool stuff actually in the next couple of weeks, this week, next week, keep your eyes peeled. And every day, new projects kick off. In fact, the current round of SCF had a record number of applicants. And that brings me to the message I want to leave you with. Now that Sorbonne is live, Stellar has everything you need to hit the ground running. Whether you're a dev, a founder, or someone with a killer idea to a problem you see in your community, you're starting on solid ground with a network of top-tier exchanges, on and off ramps, custody providers, wallets, and a whole host of other resources on a proven, reliable network ready to power your project on day one. And it has a smart contract platform, Sorbonne, that is delightful to use and designed to last. So we hear this all the time from builders themselves. Like during a Twitter space with DeFi builders this quarter, many of them noted that Sorbonne's design is deliberate and thoughtful, and that the ecosystem building blocks are super solid. And that all of that eliminates a lot of the developer pain points that exist on other networks, right? They pointed out, for instance, that handling assets is a lot easier on Stellar, that the CLI and TypeScript bindings are exceptional, that the documentation is super useful. And I will say that documentation also continues to improve every day. So you, dear developer, if you are thinking of building something, go for it. Get connected, get ready to deploy, join the growing community shaping the future of decentralized finance. If you want to engage, but you aren't sure where to start, do this. Join the Stellar Dev Discord. You'll find me there along with everyone else from the vibrant and growing Stellar community. That's my pitch. Join the Stellar Dev Discord. That's my CTA. And so now I'll turn it over to Jason to keep things going. Jason.
Thanks, Justin. Hi, I'm Jason Chlipala, our Chief Business Officer. Moving along to the next North Star, let's go over what we're doing to focus on everyday financial services. Tokenized assets, on and off ramps, and wallets are priorities because they provide essential utility to institutions, businesses, developers, and end users of products built on Stellar. These are the elements that help the network power everyday financial services. Last year, tokenization on the network reached new heights for good reason. Stellar is the ideal platform for asset tokenization, trusted today by a range of global financial institutions. Stellar is gaining recognition as a leader, and SDF is working to keep that going in 2024. The objectives for this quarter were to deliver new institutional users, support new end users, and bring new volume to the network. We saw approximately an 80% increase in payments velocity for stablecoins, a 20% increase in the number of stablecoin holders, and a 125% increase in market cap of stablecoins on the network. WisdomTree received authorization to offer its digital asset solution issued on Stellar, which is called WisdomTree Prime, to New York State residents. The WisdomTree Prime platform offers customers access to blockchain-enabled digital funds and tokenized real-world assets like gold. 2 new global reserve currency stablecoins for the euro and the Swiss franc were also launched in Q1. With respect to ramps, BitNovo went live as a new on and off ramp in Europe and soon in Latin America. And Tempo added new functionality to their existing ramp, now covering more complex use cases. And finally, Yellow Card launched a successful marketing campaign to drive usage of USDC on Stellar. The team is showing up at key industry events like the Digital Asset Summit and more to spread the word. These are examples of how we're expanding access to trusted versions of widely used currencies in the world on Stellar. Stellar Aid Assist and the open source Stellar Disbursement platform for bulk payments also continued to deliver utility to new users. The SDP was used to deliver $1.2 million in payments in Q1. This quarter, the team also completed multi-tenancy work on SDP to enable third-party providers to offer it as a service to their customers. This will expand its availability as well as grow the usage of the SDP. We published a case study on one of the Q1 SDP users, Bigger, an Australian company providing training and business planning services. They have a significant concentration of employees based in Argentina and are using crypto to pay workers. While crypto payments were convenient, the process before SDP was open to user error and left opportunities for improvement. Bigger realized they needed a turnkey solution to send cross-border bulk payouts to their global workforce. Once they found SDP, they were sending bulk payouts with certainty and transparency to employees in seconds. This has proved to be faster and lower cost. Employees can view and confirm funds immediately via the Beans app, a digital wallet providing free global money transfers using stable digital assets. This is especially meaningful to those employees in Argentina who face significant currency devaluation, making it difficult to anticipate the amount they would receive and hold in Argentine pesos. With payroll initially dispersed in USDC, a currency that can always be exchanged one for US dollars, employees have predictability in their payout. The digital wallet empowers them with choice as to when and how to access funds, with the ability to cash out in local currency as needed. And even cooler, Bigger's technical team originally learned of the SDP as an active member of the Stellar Networks ecosystem and through their participation in the community. You can learn more about all this on our case studies page. Next, an update on investments. This quarter, SDF made a $1 million equity investment into ARF, which is a regulated global liquidity and settlement platform for licensed financial institutions, providing short-term, revolving, and USDC-based credit lines for cross-border payments. As of Q1, ARF has enabled over $1 billion of on-chain USDC transaction volume, all on the Stellar network. This investment seeks to help bring additional network benefits by furthering the use of Stellar USDC as the preferred on-chain transaction medium for ARF. More investment updates to come in 2024 that will drive toward ensuring that sustainable Stellar uses continue to grow and get the support they need. Now back to Denelle with a look at what we achieved under the third North Star.
Well, hello again, and thank you, Jason. This North Star focuses on building a trustworthy technology stack to advance adoption. To start, this North Star brings us back to smart contracts and Sorbonne. So from the beginning, Sorbonne has included tools to really improve smart contract security, but tools alone are not enough. Projects also need to help from experts with experience rooting out vulnerabilities, who know how to put contracts through their paces and use the slate of tools to the greatest effect. That's why SDF is focused on the technical capabilities and third-party services necessary to establish smart contracts on Stellar as a leader in safety. We launched the Sorbonne Audit Bank in Q1, introducing security experts to the ecosystem and connecting them to projects that are in need of these audits. Audits help prevent hacks by identifying vulnerabilities before contracts go live, which is why they're crucial to the development of a secure smart contract protocol. The program is distributing up to $1 million in security audit credits in coordination with 6 top-tier audit firms. Audit credits have been used for 15 projects thus far. Multiple formal verification tools are seeing progress, and fuzzing, a dynamic method, a testing method that helps identify issues, is starting to see usage as well. If you've built a financial protocol or Oracle and are interested in participating in the Audit Bank program, get in touch. We also spent dedicated time with the ecosystem this quarter, listening to build trust. In February, we went to Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya to meet with builders, creators, and decision makers. Our focus at SDF is all about supporting local builders to solve their local problems. So nothing is more exciting to me than the opportunity to meet with the ecosystem face to face. It was a whirlwind ecosystem and creator meetups and conversations with trailblazing founders. We got to know more about the innovation that blockchain is powering to help tackle local problems. Some highlights: we convened a roundtable that included leaders from Cowrie, a company that built one of the first cross-border payment rails for Nigeria on Stellar; Yellow Card, the largest African exchange, which integrated USDC on Stellar just this year; and ShipperCash, a leading peer-to-peer cross-border payment startup with millions of users. We discussed the state of payment landscape and collective solutions that are addressing the current challenges in Nigeria. The team at Honeycoin graciously hosted us for a lively meetup in Nairobi. Honeycoin is a super app that enables users to pay bills, buy airtime, pay for goods and services, and more, all in one place. Honeycoin initially joined the Stellar ecosystem through the Stellar Community Fund. Yes, go get in touch with that fund. Since then, they've been a loyal user base and most recently integrated with the MoneyGram Access service to enable cash to crypto. It was so energizing to connect with the community they're building there. We spent time with the founder of Aku Fintech, who developed a QR code debit card solution that enables people with smartphones to pay for goods and services. Sorry, let me back up for a second. People without smartphones, because this is sort of the linchpin and the key here, to still pay for goods and services electronically. Since our meeting, we've signed a deal with them to invest in the company. The creative economy is absolutely thriving, but it is underserved when it comes to financial solutions. So we sat down with artists and musicians and others with pursuits in tech, art, media, and more. These discussions centered around their projects, as well as the challenges of getting their work distributed to the global marketplace and, frankly, getting paid for it. Our goal was to listen in order to really better understand the root problems and see if and how tools like blockchain can help. We'll be doing a lot more of this in 2024, so stay tuned. On that note, one opportunity to convene, which we announced in Q1, is our annual conference, Meridian. For the 6th edition, we're headed to London from October 15th to 17th. This year's theme is transformation. Over 3 days, we'll gather to discuss our work together as an ecosystem and envision what's next on the path for transforming everyday financial services. Meridian is your chance to connect with developers, founders, and leaders making real-world change with blockchain technology. Expect content tailored to your interests, lots of focused opportunities for networking, and more. The call for speakers is open right now through June 30th. If you have something to say to the ecosystem, I want to hear from you, so send us your ideas. More updates to come on what we have in store. Finally, a word on what the policy team has been up to, engaging with key policy audiences to help shape digital asset policy across the globe. This is how we continue to establish our position as a thought leader on financial access. Candace Kelly, our Chief Legal Officer, participated in the MTech Exchange hosted by PwC. The event focused on the essential 8 technologies and implications of their development. We submitted comments to aid European regulators on the implementation of MiCA. We also submitted a response to a U.S. Treasury's request for information on a national financial inclusion strategy, where we emphasized the importance of open systems to really further financial inclusion efforts. This response really blends our focus on financial access with our continued efforts to advocate for open systems that allow for transparency and collaboration. SDF's response also supports the use of innovation like smart contracts to empower individuals without the need for intermediaries. This is innovation that enables consumers to access financial services without relying on legacy actors that have historically excluded certain communities, especially important to highlight for us, given how Sorabon can help builders provide services to people who don't already have access in parts of the world that other networks do not. Bringing it full circle, it all comes back to building a trustworthy technology stack to really advance adoption and transform everyday financial services. That's what we're focused on. I'll close with that for now. I'm going to hand it back to Carolyn for the Q&A.
Thanks, Denelle. Thanks, everyone. All right, so we are kicking off the Q&A. As a reminder, please continue to drop your questions in the chat or in the Q&A in Zoom, and we will get to as many as we can. So kicking off, Justin, this one is for you. Someone wants to know, how is Stellar competing to attract developers to the ecosystem, and what metric is used to determine developer quality?
Good questions. I think that to attract developers to the ecosystem is definitely one of the biggest goals of the foundation right now. And so there's just like a lot of different ways that we like sort of approach that, and a lot of different things that we do in order to like really try to grab attention. I think at the top of funnel, there's like a lot of events, both events that like we sort of put on, sponsor, attend, where we speak, engage with people in real life. There's also events that we help the community set up. There was just one in Rio. There's one coming up in also in Nigeria. And so we are also trying to like help other people get out there and evangelize Stellar in IRL events. In addition to that, we also have a lot of like obviously marketing and like sort of storytelling that we do. There's like a ton of just like technical information that we post, that we share with the world. And sort of below that in the funnel, we have a whole series of steps that developers can take that are like sort of help them figure out how like draw them in and give them opportunities to build meaningful projects. So if you hear about Stellar in an event, you might actually do the next thing, which is startup camp. We just had a big startup camp where 30 teams spent 5 days building their sort of first MVP Stellar integrations. And then after that, there's obviously the Stellar Community Fund. And so I think it's this sort of funneled approach where at the top, we do a bunch of outreach, a bunch of marketing, a bunch of pop-ups, a bunch of events. Below that, things like Startup Camp, and below that, SCF. And we sort of work to encourage people to understand all those opportunities. And then along the way, we also provide them with like really good resources, really great documentation and support so that there's no blockers for people to build. In terms of metrics, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at the developers that are coming in. I think that for me, there's the projects that launch is like a pretty good end of the funnel metric. Are the projects launching? Are they good? Are they passing their audits? The other ones are, we sort of look at open source contributions, the number of people that are actually writing code, that commits that get counted by things like Electric Capital. And then also we look at the number of people that come to our Discord and that participate. And I could say that all of those metrics, like the open source contributions, the Discord joins and conversations, and the output from programs like SCF, these are all increasing a lot. So we are seeing like a big, especially now that Sorbonne's live on mainnet, like a lot more developers are being attracted to the Stellar ecosystem.
And can I just
Awesome.
add that it's important for us also, as Sorbonne is growing, for us to really focus on developers. And so we actually are looking out there in the world to see what a lot of other ecosystems have done well, and really taking on some of those activities too. So all the stuff that Justin just talked about, we're already doing, and frankly, we've been doing for a while, but there are more things that we're going to put in play so that we can actually reach more people and be able to have events that are maybe smaller events in lots of different geographies, so that we can actually just get more developers, more builders, and more entrepreneurs engaged. So stay tuned for this. And if you have ideas, we're happy to hear from you as well.
Yeah, and I'd say specifically if you're out there and you think, oh, a meetup is something that I'm interested in doing. There's like a channel in the Discord that is specifically for this purpose. You go into that channel, we will walk you through the process of setting up one of these meetups. And there's a lot more of this kind of activation that is giving tools and resources to people outside of SDF to sort of evangelize Stellar, set up community, build their own like sort of events and programs that we're doing a whole lot more of. So if you're interested, definitely join the Stellar Dev Discord and find that channel and just let us know.
Cool. So I think the message is, if you're looking to build on Stellar, there is support to be had. And someone asked, maybe this is a good transition, can SDF please reconsider funding oracles? Stellar needs a prediction market like Agure. So maybe that's just like a education opportunity, Justin, for you to just talk about like project types that we support.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you look, for instance, at the Stellar Community Fund, the goal of it was to support all different kinds of projects, and specifically to support all of the different projects that are necessary for a thriving ecosystem. Oracles are definitely one of the kinds of projects that we support. Off the top of my head, I mentioned Band earlier. I think Band is an Oracle that's live on Stellar today. Light Echo, Reflector. There are at least, those are like the first 3 that come to mind. I think there are probably 3 or 4 more that exist. And so like oracles that sort of provide off-chain information to allow smart contracts to execute are an important part of like building out use cases and building out like transaction flows. And yeah, there are oracles that are live. We do support them through programs like SCF. And so I think there may just be more education that we need to do here to let people know, hey, if you want to build an Oracle, there is an avenue for you to get support.
Yeah, great. Okay, Denelle, maybe you want to take this one. Someone is wondering with, organizations putting crypto wallets that move value on chain requiring a money transmitter license, will SDF be providing any guidance in this regard? I think they are specifically maybe a SCF applicant that wants to understand like how to deal with obstacles like this in their proposals. So any guidance for this person?
Yeah, so I'll just say that I don't think non-custodial wallets are, since that is the individual moving the value, that the SEC, I saw the question that the SEC has made any proclamations around that. One of the most important things to do, though, in this space is to seek out the advice of lawyers on it in the US. Like outside the US, it's definitely a different type of environment in terms of the openness to this technology a bit more. Within the US, we just see a lot of focus right now, and they're trying to really sort of get their ducks in a row as to how they're going to approach this technology and what it builds. But non-custodial wallets are not required at this point to have money transmitter licenses, as far as I'm aware. But it is something that's really important as you're building and as you're like moving towards putting something out into the public. You really want to have outside counsel take a look at it, or in-house counsel take a look at it and just give you their feedback around it. Because there are important distinctions between like what's a custodial, what's a non-custodial, when is it considered money transfer, when is it not. So yeah, these are important distinctions and things that we need to focus on. We actually, unfortunately, can't give legal advice, but we can, certainly give you, we do a lot of policy work in this space, and we spend a bunch of time trying to make sure that we've actually been advocating for the positions that we think make sense. Certainly, if I want to send money to Jason or to Justin, for example, that shouldn't be considered a money transmission since I'm doing it from a peer-to-peer standpoint.
Awesome. Thanks, Denelle. Jason, maybe this is one that you can take. Someone asks, it's been a while since we've heard about new enterprise fund investments. Anything moving and shaking in that area?
Yeah, of course. So I mentioned one on this call already. The investment in ARF is an enterprise fund investment. So maybe the question was just one of terminology. Whenever we talk about an equity investment by SDF, that's from our enterprise fund. And sometimes you may hear us talk about a matching fund, which is still within that umbrella of equity investment. It's just a sort of program within the enterprise fund for matching smaller checks for earlier stage companies. So we absolutely are continuing to make investment. 2023 was admittedly a slow year from an investment perspective. That wasn't just for SDF. That was certainly across the entire crypto industry and also across VC more broadly. As you probably know, as interest rates go up, VC investment tends to go down, and everything in the world is cyclical. But now that we absolutely see that trend changing, we're seeing a lot more deal flow. We're talking to other investors, and they're seeing the same thing. So we absolutely expect a lot more to announce as we go with the rest of this year.
Okay, great. More to come. Justin, this one is for you. Someone is asking, I want to build a project on Stellar, but I'm not a tech person. How can I go about that?
I know I'm repeating myself here, but I think you should join the Stellar Dev Discord. If you go into the Stellar Dev Discord, you'll find like that is where the community congregates, and there's all different kinds of people in there, developers, and also people that have ideas that are trying to connect with developers. And there's like channels in there where you can actually sort of pitch your idea, talk to people, find people to help you build. And it's like sort of open to everyone, and it has a really good supportive, it's like a very good supportive environment. So I joined the Stellar Dev Discord and ask people there if they're interested in collaborating.
Great. Yes, definitely get in there, join the community. Lots of support for you there. Okay, Denelle, maybe you want to take this one about SDP. Someone said, awesome to hear about the use case in Argentina with bigger other countries or organizations using SDP for payroll.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting. A lot of companies have, if they're already in the payroll space, they already have built in their own sort of disbursement platform that they leverage. But we definitely have other companies that are looking at it for aid disbursement. We already are using that with the UNHCR, but others are looking at it for aid disbursement. we had a small project that called Casa Tocan that the use case in Mexico City, and that they use the SDP to disperse funds to shelter recipients. I love the payroll piece of it. And for those tech companies that don't already have like a disbursement platform on their side, this is the perfect thing to be able to leverage. So I think we're going to see more and more of this happening. We're seeing the Stellar Network and, for example, the Vibrant Wallet being used to disperse payroll by companies into Argentina. And I think that, and some of those are looking at the SDP. But it's, even if it's not the SDP, I think payroll is awesome on Stellar, but we do have lots of folks who are looking at it. It's an open source tool, so we want the world to sort of use it. And we're seeing more and more activity there.
Great, thanks, Denelle. We have a few questions that are all kind of focused on geographies, like how does SDF prioritize what countries to support? What are you doing in Latin America and things like that? So maybe Denelle, do you want to start this one, and anyone else can chime in?
Sure. I'll say that when I first started at the SDF, so that was 5 years ago, we actually tried to be really global. We had a tiny team, and the team was like trying to be all over the world and to do everything that needed to be done in each geography. And really what we needed to do was sort of lay the foundations. And what I mean by that is we needed those global on and off ramps. We needed those local on and off ramps. We needed really strong assets to be able to leverage for the payments or for whatever use case you were trying to achieve. And we sort of pulled back a little bit on us doing lots of work globally until we got these, what we call, like, we've solved that on and off ramping problem with global expansion, but also with local players that we now focus on. So in terms of like where the SDF spends its time, we have a business development team that really like focuses globally. So we don't have, nothing's off limits from that standpoint, but we're still a small team. I'd say that we're tiny, but we're mighty in terms of trying to achieve all the goals that we want to achieve. We have gone recently to the African continent this year. Last year, we spent a bunch of time in South America and Latin America. So, and we're also spending time in Asia. So we're trying really hard to sort of go everywhere that we can go. But it's also really important for us to just rely on the folks that are in the region to help us to identify what opportunities that they see that we could be helpful in. We don't like to go to any region and to tell anybody in any region how they should be doing their policy or their governance or any businesses should be built. We really like to listen and provide feedback and work with local builders to be able to support work with the regulatory bodies there, for example. And we're happy when we're invited to attend events with the regulatory bodies. We want to do it, but we don't want to push our views on different parts of the world that we might not understand all the local culture and practices. So we're very cognizant that the listening piece is important, but we really do try to cover the globe. And I feel with Soroban, we're actually now, we've got all the pieces to be able to do this. This is really a year of like just tremendous growth opportunities for us from a global standpoint, but also just from a tech standpoint. So all of it has come together with the on and off ramps, the assets, and Soroban to make it so that we want to be able to even focus more globally. And we're going to be hiring some more BD folks to help us do that, and also some more ecosystem team folks on Justin's team to be able to help us to achieve that as well. So stay tuned for those, please. Like, so if you see the job listings, apply to the jobs if you're interested in helping us to really be the blockchain that we want to be.
Yes, SDF is hiring, so take a look. Okay, Jason, this one is for you. A lot of questions here about tokenization coming in, including people wondering about things like tokenization of real estate and other real-world assets. So could you talk a little bit about what the steps are to tokenize assets with Stellar, what resources are available, anything you would like to share?
Yeah, of course. As a technical matter, tokenizing an asset on Stellar is very easy because all the way back in 2014, when the network was created, when the protocol was created, that was the use case in mind. Tokenizing, nobody said real world assets back then, but the thought was tokenizing things like fiat currencies. And now we see where that trend has taken us. So as a technical matter, it's very simple. It takes very little code. There are many native features built right into the protocol, things like auth required, which you can create allow lists for who can hold your asset or claw back. You can, if an issuer needs to, they have the ability to claw assets back. Our website is a great place to start. So on stellar.org, if you go to the menu, there's a section called Real Use Cases. And within that, there's a section called Asset Tokenization. There you'll find all sorts of resources such as the developer documentation, case studies, and we also have something called our Asset Sandbox, which is a tool that you can use to actually issue, play around with that and issue assets on our testnet. And you can see exactly what it's like to issue an asset. I think maybe it was in a separate question, someone also asked about the compliance piece of this and also how we're thinking about different regions and geographies, because of course, depending on the type of asset you're issuing, compliance and regulation is really important. For example, if you're issuing a security, you really need to think about the rules, and you need to think about them in your specific area. So like Denelle said, always you need to consult with counsel, but one of the things we, SDF, are doing is we are partnering with and working with various tokenization platforms. So these are companies whose business is helping those issuers to create and issue those assets. And in some cases, they sort of provide that compliance themselves because they have the licenses. In other cases, they advise and they can help guide the issuing entity. But the general point is there are platforms around the world for exactly this business, because a lot of people are seeing, what our founders very presciently thought about back in 2014, that tokenizing assets on a blockchain has a lot of benefits. And so we, a couple of examples of this are, we're working with a company called Taurus, which is based in Europe, that sort of end-to-end, anything you could want for tokenization, they can provide it. We're working with a company called Braille here in the US and a number of others. So if you're a large institution thinking about issuing, these tokenization platforms are a great way to get started. And then, as I said, you can always go to our website, go to Real Use Cases, Asset Tokenization, all sorts of resources. And there's also information for how you can contact my team, the business development team, to learn more.
And I saw a question come up. Can Stellar be used to tokenize bank deposits? And the answer is, of course. And I think that's a super interesting next step for banks to be able to think about how you use that and how you can use that in terms of just kind of like a stable coin. So it's a stable asset that you can leverage as your bank deposit. But of course, all the steps that Jason just talked about can be leveraged for bank deposits as well.
Okay, great. And we have a few questions coming in from different people, including Denelle, someone you met at the Nairobi event, which is great, asking about just like partnership opportunities and how to get connected. So what is the best way to do that? There's an email.
Can you remind me, is it partnerships at Stellar?
Yes, that's right.
Partnerships@stellar.org. Email us. We want to hear from you.
And Jason is actually on the other end of that email address, and other people from the partnerships team. So there are real people looking at those emails and responding to you. Okay, great. I think we're at time, but I just want to get one more question in. So this is a good one to end with. Someone asks, what's next for Stellar? Nobody ever thought we'd see smart contracts on Stellar, yet here we are. Any other advancements that you could see happening in the future? What's next? Anyone have thoughts?
Yeah, fortunately for us, we don't get to like sit back and just be like, all right, now we're done. I mean, I think it's funny that you say that no one ever thought we'd see smart contracts on Stellar. When I started 5 years ago, it was adamantly not necessary for us to have smart contracts on Stellar, because the truth is that you could do most everything on Stellar with multi-sig and some other different ways that to create sort of smart contract like advancements. And so nobody believed we needed it. And yet, like desperately, we needed to be able to bring them so that we could have programmatic opportunity for everyone to build what they want instead of stick within the sort of structure of the original protocol. So it's awesome to see that. And we don't get to just sit back now and be like, okay, we're done. We've done it. Smart contracts and regular payments and now everyday financial services. We really have to think about confidential transactions, privacy. We also have to think about even better scalability. We think that actually Sorbonne has been built in a way that offers tremendous opportunity for scalability. We also think Stellar in terms of payments is really good and fast, and it's very scalable, but we want there to be as many transactions on this network as per second that anyone could imagine. And so from that standpoint, we have already one of our internal objectives is to create a plan for what confidential and private transactions look like. Is that another chain? Is that something that we can build in and some standards that we can put together? And then obviously we have a lot of focus on scalability and how we can ensure that we can actually get to achieve all the demand that we see currently on Stellar, and then 100 times that. So those are two of the things that you'll see us focused on towards the end of this year to really build on for next year.
One thing I want to say is that in the very short term, there is about to be a new protocol. Protocol 21 is in the works, and there's some really cool new features that are a part of it. And I'm not going to get into them all now. We'll talk about them next time, but you should keep your eyes on the new features that are coming in the short term in Protocol 21, as well as these sort of like longer term, bigger plans that Denelle just talked about. The one that I'm super excited about is SecP 256R1 support, which if you saw the demo that Tyler, our dev advocate, put together, allows you to sign transactions using Face ID. So there's like user experience stuff in addition to the scalability and privacy stuff. It's all pretty exciting, and it's happening in the short term, in the medium term, and the long term.
I'm so sorry, guys. I know you're going to hate me for this, but I just saw this question and it just made me laugh so hard. When is the celebrity boxing match with Denelle versus Laura Shin for payback for the zombie article? It makes me laugh because for anyone to think for 1 second that Stellar could be considered a zombie chain is hilarious, given most of the activity that anyone points to at all out there in the whole blockchain ecosystem that's real is activity that they point to on Stellar. Even sometimes without attribution to it. So it's hilarious to us. There's no boxing match. Really what we want to see is just more folks out there really focused on doing, from a journalist standpoint, do the homework, because if you really look at it, you'll see there's so much activity and value on Stellar. And I thought about it after, and I don't watch zombie movies, but my husband does. And I was like, well, aren't there like really strong zombies on zombie movies? And that's what we should call ourselves. So anyway, it's one of those things where we just want people to be better, do better when you're doing your work so that you can actually really look at what activity is around. Sorry, Carolyn, I just had to take that one.
Don't apologize. Well said. And I can't think of a better way to end than on that note. So thanks everyone for joining us. Great questions as always. And we will have the full webinar recording and report posted on our quarterly report landing page by the end of the day, as well as a recap blog up. So stay tuned for that. Follow us on Twitter for all the updates. And thanks so much for being here. We'll see you again next quarter.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.